This video presents content from Chapter 4 of the book Sustainable Living and World Peace. This video is the first of 2 videos on a section entitled Virtue, Freedom, and Treating Others as Free and Equal Brings Peace and Prosperity, or Virtue equals Freedom equals Peace equals Prosperity. Have you ever thought about the perpetual threat of conflict and war people have always experienced, and then wonder why people cannot find a way to get along and live in peace? Why cannot people who make up the great diversity of ideologies, ethnicities, cultures, societies, and sovereign nations of the world come to actualize and experience a world of genuine and lasting peace? The solution to ending conflict and bringing about world peace has always been right in front of us, and yet we have been unable to grasp it. Our inability or unwillingness to understand what should be self-evident has always led to more conflict and strife again and again. Learned hatred and the perpetuation of ignorance remain with us, as is evidenced by the hostilities and rise of extremism we see today. But peace and prosperity can be achieved by our commitment to virtue, certain fixed principles, and mutual respect for each other. As citizens of the United States, we have always had the words from the Declaration of Independence to guide us, and we have been able to refer back to these words in times of civil crisis. Even when we were still acting out of prejudice and not treating each other as equals, we could always look back to the words from the Declaration of Independence to put us on course. The Founding Fathers of the United States knew of the injustices and atrocities that were done in the past due to ignorance. For example, intolerance of different religious practices was a recurring source of conflict in the past. Not only was acknowledging and recognizing freedom of choice, such as in religious preference, a way for people to live as they wish, it also provided a way for a diverse group of people to live together peacefully and prosperously with common virtues, values, and shared respect for each other. A great step was taken to unite a diverse group of people with different beliefs within the United States. Now another great step can be taken to unite peoples of the world's sovereign nations in a personal way based on freedom and the same virtues that facilitate respectful and civil existence. People of the United States take great pride in their view of equality among all people and the freedoms we have that allow people to live peacefully while making their own decisions for themselves and how they live. And yet, in the nation founded on equality and freedom, there have been terrible things done to people because of their race or beliefs. The American Indians were driven off the land they called home and were mistreated for decades. Black people were taken from their native land, enslaved, and treated as property and not as human beings. In the lives of nations, as in the lives of individuals, bad things are done along with good things. We sometimes do things that are wrong when we really should have known better. At some time, we will reflect back and see the error in our actions. There are things we have all done in our lives that we are not proud of, and yet we live with these things, and they are a part of our lives. There are also many good things each of us has done, which are a part of our lives. Both the good and the bad are a part of our lives. Yet we strive and intend to do our best in the future, based on our principles of how to live our lives, how to treat other people, and our hopes of prosperity for all people. As with individuals, it is similar with nations or groups of people. The good things the United States has done and the bad that the United States has done are all a part of us, and we cannot disown either. Nevertheless, the good embodied in the principles of the United States and the recognition of equality and the promise of freedom expounded by the founders of the nation are a part of us and a justified source of pride. We must continue to live by these values and set an example for the rest of the world to see, revealing to other peoples and nations what we are and what can be expected from us. The Declaration of Independence says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Notice that this statement does not say that all Americans are created equal. It was referring to all of humanity around the world. The only prerequisite for equality and endowment of certain unalienable rights was to be human, no matter who you were or where you were. What if we were truly to extend these understandings to include all people around the world? What if people outside of our borders in other countries knew they would receive treatment by us consistent with how we treat each other? What if the people of other nations trusted and believed that we were on their side as equal human beings, willing to ensure their right to choose their way of life and the way they want to live without interference? Consider that there are people in predominantly Muslim countries with the perception that the United States and the West are trying to discourage or even bring down Islam. Some extremist groups try to propagate and escalate this perception by saying there is actually a war on Islam occurring. We should all realize their efforts to distort people's views of what we are really about in principle, and we should be finding ways to correct this perception. Since our influence is often in the form of a military presence or threats, our actions often do not promote the perception of our values of respecting religious freedom. What if we were to explicitly and unmistakably explain and then show people in other countries that we simply want to live peacefully as we so choose without interference, and we want for them to live peacefully as they so choose without interference? What if other peoples and other nations sincerely believed they could always expect respect from us in any dealings we have with any peaceful peoples and nations? These types of expectations and treatment must be reciprocated in order for peaceful and prosperous relationships to work. Any relationship has to work both ways, or multiple ways when many parties are involved, and relationships among all peoples of the earth can be this way. We cannot have the acknowledgement and acceptance of freedom in a one-way relationship, and we cannot have peace in a one-way relationship. We cannot have trust and respect only going one direction and still expect results. We have to figure that peace will have to come as part of an active relationship, and the relationship has to work in two directions. In that regard, we must keep in mind the different histories, cultures, and customs of different peoples of different nations, and listen to their concerns and desires. Proclaiming our virtuous desire for peace and our wishes that other people live as they choose will be a big step in the course we set toward world peace and prosperity.